Very warm welcome to all of those who are joining me live. I'm Neha. Although several military level and diplomatic level talks have taken place already, it does appear that the standoff between India and China is far from being over. In the latest, the Indian Army Chief M.M. Naravane has landed in Leh for a two-day visit. He will be reviewing the current situation at the line of actual control. Remember, the situation only got worse after China continued with its cheap tactics of trying to intrude even while the military-level talks were underway, which clearly indicates that China has no respect for military talks. And in what comes as a jolt to China, the specialized units of the Indian Army have reached dominating heights on the ridge lines along Finger 4 in the northern banks of Pangong Tso in Ladakh. As per reports, the Indian Army has also set up posts opposite to Chinese ones. Now, these posts were set up after their intrusion in our territory. Do remember, the Indian Army has already captured heights at the southern part of Pangong Tso Lake and have crushed the ill intentions of China. The Indian Army has also moved the troops to the eastern stretch of the border with China. To speak more on this, I'm joined by Air Marshal B.K. Murli, who has been closely following up on it and also is somebody who has an expertise in this area. Thank you so very much, Air Marshal, first of all, for taking out some time and speaking to us. Sir, first things first, the Indian Army has reached dominating heights on the ridge lines along Finger 4 in the northern banks of Pangong. So, what does it mean for India and how important was it?
Yeah, good afternoon, Neha. Yes, it's true that we have done some counter maneuvers and we have occupied on the west side of Finger 4 area on the ridge line. There is a background to it. Probably the viewers and those who are following this news may not be aware that in the month of July, after 2 rounds of military discussions at the commander level, it appears that suddenly the trail got cold and the Chinese side was not responding to the Indian side despite a number of telephone calls and also the note verbals. In fact, the diplomatic and the military levels talks, it appears, were not taking place in a proper time frame. So this raised alarm bells in the South Bloc, and as a result of which the army decided that they should be now ready for any eventuality. Now, after the 5 rounds of talks between the commanders, the Chinese side did not withdraw completely. In fact, even though they withdrew just about 1.5 kilometers from Finger 4 area, only on the baseline, but they declined to actually go away from the ridge line. Now, ridge line means it is actually mountainous range, and sitting on top of the mountain range, you can look down below at the ridge line and take on anybody, and people moving, our troops moving along will be like sitting ducks. So Indian Army realized that there was a disadvantageous position, as the result of which they decided to actually mount two front counter maneuvers. The very first was take over similar ridge lines along the southern bank. So accordingly, the Blacktop, Helmet and Hunchun ridge lines were actually taken over by the army, thus completely dominating the southern bank. In the northern bank, the army took over the ridge line of number 3 and also the ridge line west of this Finger 4 area, which is now occupied by China. As a result of which today we are actually face to face with the People's Liberation Army at Finger 4 within a few hundred meters distance, and any if it actually results in a military conflict, and now they are able to dominate the area. Right. Now this actually was army called it as readjusting their positions, but actually is a counter maneuver to make themselves absolutely battle ready in the eventuality of a military confrontation.
Right. So, Air Marshal, just to give our viewers a full picture of what exactly is happening, tell us how difficult will it be for the soldiers in the coming days to guard the borders, especially during winters?
No, it is extremely difficult. I mean, actually the level of difficulty really cannot even be described. As the temperature dips, which is expected to happen in the month of October, starting from the clothing that they wear to their weapons, and then their, even the food, and also their actually the place of stay, everything is going to be extremely difficult because the entire area will be covered with snow. The complete Galwan lake, the Galwan Valley actually, which actually has a lake, will be completely frozen, and there is every possibility that our side of the Pangong River also could be frozen. Under such conditions, actually, even walking a few meters will be virtually impossible.
Right.
The temperatures will dip to sub-zero. It could even go up to -40. And this is actually living in really hellish conditions. And only those who have gone and actually seen those areas can, understand this difficulty. So, winter is really not the season for either side to wage a war. That is the reason why our army is extremely cautious, and then they have completely readjusted. Now, yet another news that has come today is that the army has readjusted its position right along the border, including the middle area up to the east. That is the Arunachal Pradesh and Tawang area. So they probably they are expecting China to open new fronts all along the border that we share with them, nearly 3,900 kilometers of border, and now they want to be ready at any point wherever the Chinese actually launch an offensive.
Right. So, Air Marshal, the Indian Army has also moved troops just opposite to the Chinese camps that were set up at the time of intrusion. The Indian Army has clearly upped the ante. Are we looking at a violent military confrontation anytime soon?
No, actually, there are two aspects to this. The very first aspect is, the military level talks between the commanders and the brigadier level talks at the working level were not yielding the desired results. It appears that whenever there was a meeting at the Moldo or at the Chushul that belonged to either sides, there were only accusations and counter accusations, and in fact nothing was getting resolved. And the Chinese actually kept on blaming the Indian side for crossing across the LOC and violating the consensus.
Right.
So to make Chinese come back to the negotiating table and then accept the conditions of the Indian side, it is believed that the Indian Army has done this counter maneuver of completely dominating the southern bank of the Pangong River, Pangong Lake, and the western ridge line at Finger 4 and the complete ridge line at Finger 3. This is what now is being said. Now, they say that because of the fact that now we dominate both north and south banks of the Pangong Lake, there is a possibility that the Chinese will come back to the negotiating table and the disengagement can happen. But this is far from...
Even if they come back to the negotiating table, we don't know whether to trust them. Because as I mentioned, while the military level talks were underway, they continued their intrusion. So can they really be trusted?
True. That is exactly the point, Neha. In fact, all this talk about the Chinese coming back to the negotiating table and negotiating with the Indian side and a complete, pulling back of the troops and disengagement is really a pipe dream. This is not going to happen. We know it very well. Yes, this will definitely result in a military confrontation. Yes, if at all it will results in a military confrontation, we should be able to actually, give them a, befitting reply. Now, a befitting response, as well as we should be able to take on with our whatever strength we have. Now, the most important thing for us to understand is, when we completely dominated the southern bank of the Pangong River, in fact, this we also dominated the Spangur Gap, which is about 2 kilometers wide, and it is close to Rizangla, which is about 2.5 kilometers northwards. In fact, the Indian Army believes that if at all the Chinese mount an offensive, it will be through this area.
Okay.
It appears that there are more than 10 gaps, such gaps, Spangur gaps, and it gives them enough, leeway or enough room for the Chinese army to push in and launch a counter offensive against India, or preempt an attack. So, Indian Army wanted to be in a dominating position, and hence they completely occupied the, ridge line and the, on the tops. That is actually Helmet, the Black Top, and the Hunchun area. And now they can actually face the Chinese army in case they try to come through that gaps.
Right.
Now, on the northern side, if at all the Chinese army decides to go on offensive, we are also occupying the ridge line at Finger 3 and west of Finger 4, and we are in a right position to actually give them a proper response. So, we are ready for the war also. At the same time, there is some kind of a hope that they will come back and start negotiating with India.
Right. Air Marshal, talking about another aspect now, the Indian Army has clearly given out a strong message to China. But if you have to speak about China, the country really isn't used to be humiliated, if you look at it that way. But this time, China has been given a befitting reply, as I mentioned. How will the country perceive it? Your quick response on it, sir, before I wrap this conversation.
Yeah, now, actually, China is being thrashed from all sides, not only India. Now, the latest country to join the bandwagon is Czech Republic. In fact, all the Quad countries, Australia, Japan, Philippines, even smaller countries like Philippines and Vietnam are issuing warning to China, and Japan and in any case Australia are up against China. United States, Mike Pompeo's remarks today. So from all sides, China is being cornered. It will be really interesting to see what the Communist Party of China will do under the circumstances. But as far as military veterans are concerned, we know China is just not going to back down. As far as India is concerned, they think that it is very easy to bully India because they are numerically superior, and we will actually bow down in front of them.
Absolutely, but that's not going to happen because this time we have our strategy in place, and we are going to give them a befitting reply like we have been given. Thank you so very much, Air Marshal, for joining us on this Facebook page of the Newsline. Well, do remember that Indian Army Chief M.M. Narawane has also landed in Ladakh for a 2-day visit, and now all eyes are on the next big step that will be taken by India to give a response to China, to make them understand in the language that they understand. Thank you so very much for joining me. Take care of yourself. If at all you like this video, do not forget to subscribe Newsline YouTube. Do not, in fact, like us on Newsline Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.